Hello, and welcome to the National Foundation to End Child Abuse and Neglect's second annual No Dinner Dinner. I'm Ed Green, your host for the evening. I want to thank you for joining us tonight for this inspiring evening aimed at celebrating the authentic voices of survivors of child abuse and neglect. Speaking out against traumatic childhood experiences is a brave and commendable act, and we thank you for joining us tonight as we work together to create change for future generations. Ordinarily, we'd be together in the same space, enjoying a delicious meal. But out of an abundance of caution, during what is hopefully the final chapters of this ongoing pandemic, tonight's program is virtual, and therefore we will not be serving you a dinner. Hence the name, the No Dinner Dinner. We can, however, guarantee you will get your fill of meeting incredible survivors. You'll also learn about the impactful work being done in the field, and hear two outstanding musical performances from talented EndCAN's supporters. We just cannot wait to share this evening with you. As we progress through the program, you'll notice helpful links and resources being dropped in the chat box. If you or anyone you know is in need of help due to an abusive situation, please know you are not alone, and we urge you to consider the resources offered in the chat. You can also find a comprehensive list of resources that may be helpful to survivors and those experiencing child abuse and neglect at endcan.org/resources. One of the critical components in the mission to end child abuse and neglect is having well-trained and skilled medical and health professionals operating in the field. We'd like to thank our gold-level sponsors for tonight's event, including the 5 Krugman families, the Department of Pediatrics, and the Department of Radiology at the University of Colorado School of Medicine at the Anschutz Medical Campus. Here's a quick word from the Anschutz team.
Get in. We're going. Where? To shape the future. All right here. Leave your doubts. Bring your dreams. Bring your theories. Bring snacks. Bring it. We're going to challenge everything. We're going to push ourselves, push boundaries, and push buttons. We're going to take risks, take notes, take names, find new innovations, new discoveries, new ways to transform lives. This is where we stand up all day and stay up all night. This is where we ask questions, find answers, and attack the toughest health problems on the planet.
This is the place where every single cell
within each and every one of us
comes together
for something bigger.
This is the intersection of education, research, and patient care, where tomorrow's breakthroughs happen today.
This is Children's Hospital, Colorado.
This is UC Health.
This is the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, and this is Breakthrough.
This is Breakthrough.
This is Breakthrough.
This is Breakthrough.
We'd also like to thank our additional sponsors who've made this evening possible. So thank you to the ACE Resource Network, Children's Hospital Colorado Foundation, the Conference Experience, Denver Health, and the Department of Surgery at the University of Colorado School of Medicine. On June 23, 1968, a young man walked into Colorado General Hospital for the first day of his internship at the University of Colorado. What he may not have known that day was that the experience that he would acquire that year would lead him down a 50-year journey of being an advocate, a pediatrician, and a positive force for children, a journey he is still on today. That man was Dr. Richard Krugman, known by his friends and family simply as Dick. Dick co-founded EndCAN just over 3 years ago, alongside a child abuse survivor he once treated, Lori Poland. Dr. Krugman's conviction to make our country a safer and healthier place for children has guided his work in pediatrics and driven him to have a profound impact enabling research, prevention, education, and advocacy within the child abuse and neglect field. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you to EndCAN's co-founder and board chair, Dr. Richard Krupman.
Thanks, Ed, for that great introduction and for hosting this event with us for 2 years in a row. And to our viewers and supporters at home, we are honored and deeply thankful to each of you for joining us tonight. Child Abuse Prevention Month is officially April of every year. But at EndCAN, we believe every month is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and every day is a day we fight the physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical neglect, and emotional neglect of children. I'd like to tell you the story of a night early in my career that changed my life. My work in the child abuse and neglect field has a lot to do with a man named C. Henry Kemp. He was a pediatrician and chair of the Department of Pediatrics at CU School of Medicine. I first heard him speak when I was a medical student at New York University in 1967. His talk was the battered child syndrome. I came home that night as a medical student and said to my, at that time, young wife, we had been married for about 9 months, I said, I think I want to go to Denver for my internship because this guy, Henry Kemp, is an amazing person. And she said, well, you promised me water, and Denver doesn't have any water. And I said, well, let's see how it goes. So in the summer of 1967, we took a quick road trip around the country looking for internships. Denver was the first stop. We then went to Seattle, San Francisco, Stanford, and LA, all of which had a lot of water nearby. But as it turns out, I wound up here in Denver for my internship. We started here June 23rd, 1968. I saw my first case of child abuse on December 1st, 1968, in the emergency room at Denver General Hospital, when at 9 o'clock at night, a young mother brought her baby to the emergency room and said she'd been at the movies with the baby. And when the lights came up, she noticed that the baby wasn't breathing. And so she brought him to the hospital. When we examined the baby, he was dead. The next morning, the Denver coroner examined the baby, and we found 12 rib fractures, brain injuries, a ruptured liver and spleen. It was clear that the baby had just not stopped breathing. The baby had been severely beaten. Henry Kemp asked me to spend the next week looking into the medical records of the mother and the baby to better understand any interactions they had previously had with the hospital staff at Denver General and maybe Colorado General, and see if we could identify opportunities where professionals could have intervened and prevented this child's death. As I relayed all of the findings at a conference, Henry put marks on the chalkboard, and by the end of their case files, we had 27 marks on the board. 27 professionals, nurses, doctors, social workers, law enforcement, had all been involved with the mother before she came to the emergency room. Of those 27, only 2 professionals had done their job, and everyone else completely failed in recognizing that this was a mother desperately in need of services before she killed her baby. That made a huge impression on me. I couldn't understand how a mother could do that to her baby, and I also couldn't understand how professionals in society could ignore it. It turns out that child abuse is involved with all sorts of physical health injuries, such as permanent injuries and chronic pain. And when it comes to abuse, we can't change what has happened, but we can change what will. As with polio, childhood leukemia, and even the coronavirus, we know that when we bring a particular public health crisis into focus, we can alter its outcome. This Child Abuse Prevention Month, I ask you to join me in protecting children from experiences that will injure them physically, mentally, and emotionally. Experiences that, without help, will lead to significant physical and mental health issues as they grow up into adulthood. These are all experiences that we have the power to prevent. Thank you all for your support and for joining us here tonight. We look forward to working with you as we try to end child abuse and neglect in our lifetime.
Dick, thank you so much for your words. Now, as Dick mentioned, EndCAN focuses on funding child abuse research, prevention, education, and advocacy, all made possible by our supporters and our donors. Tonight, we hope you'll join us in committing to a monthly donation to help us continue our important work. I'd now like to introduce you to one of our monthly donors, Emily Luna, who will speak on why she chose to become a monthly donor.
Hi, my name is Emily Luna, and recently I was asked to talk about the reasons why I donate to EndCAN. Through some reflection, I found that there are three main reasons. The first reason is when I heard the data on how many children are abused daily, it really served as a call to action. I knew I had to help somehow, and one way in which I could contribute was financially. The second reason is I myself am a survivor of childhood abuse and neglect, and I know firsthand how hard it's been to overcome some of the trauma associated with that. If my dollar can go to help other people in the similar situations, then in my mind, that's a dollar well spent. The last reason, and the one that's probably closest to my heart, is I am a mom. The family that my kids are growing up in looks a lot different than the family I grew up in. A monthly donation serves as a reminder to me on the work I need to continue doing to keep my family healthy and happy. So with that, I'd like to ask that you join me in contributing to this foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for your monthly financial commitment to EndCAN and for sharing your story. If Emily's story inspired you to consider sharing your own story of how child abuse has impacted you, please find the link to share your story in the chat. Our next speaker this evening is EndCAN's co-founder and executive director, Lori Poland. At the young age of 3, she survived an unthinkable act of child abuse and neglect. Her journey since that day has led to the founding of EndCAN and using her experience to create a community for survivors while she works to end child abuse in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lori Poland.
Thank you, Ed. And I'd also like to extend my gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us here tonight. We know that when we gather to share our stories, and just as importantly, listen to those stories, we can develop lasting solutions that save lives. Together, we are stronger, and together we are making a difference. My story is just one of millions and millions of stories. In 1983, at the age of 3 years old, I was abducted from my front yard in the middle of the day. 4 days later, I was found in the pit of an outhouse toilet in the mountains, miles from my home. After I was found, I was taken to the Kemp Center for the prevention and the treatment of child abuse and neglect. That's where I was treated by one Dr. Richard Krugman. Over the years, Dick became my mentor and later co-founder as we created EndCAN and decided to work together to end child abuse and neglect. Since our founding in 2018, we have been overjoyed and humbled to be joined by the knowledgeable, experienced, and dedicated board of directors, the innovative and collaborative staff we have, a vibrant and industrious Young Champions Council, incredible and driven volunteers, generous and compassionate donors, inspiring and pivotal partner organizations, and countless survivors who have come forward and embarked on this journey with us. At EndCAN, our community is stronger than ever, and we're only just getting started. We have exciting plans coming up this fall with one of our amazing partner organizations, Breaking Silence. Here to tell you more is a survivor and dear friend of mine, Allie Watt.
Hi, I'm Allie Watt, the Executive Director of Breaking Silence and a board member for EndCAN. I'd like to thank each of you for joining us tonight to celebrate the authentic voices of child abuse survivors. When I shared my story of surviving childhood abuse, I was lucky enough to be believed. Since that day, I've been advocating for survivors to be able to heal through sharing their own stories. At Breaking Silence, we combine empathy with storytelling to enable people to understand the need for preventing sexual and domestic violence from ever happening in the first place. I'm excited to share with you that this fall, Breaking Silence is partnering with EndCAN on a very special event. We hope that you will join us. Take a look.
Together, we
are ending the physical abuse,
sexual abuse,
emotional abuse,
physical neglect,
and emotional neglect of children.
Together, we are preventing the consequences
that these traumatic childhood experiences can have long into adulthood, such as PTSD,
depression,
anxiety, low self-esteem, violent behavior,
permanent physical injuries,
struggles with forging relationships, trusting others,
chronic pain,
self-harming, and the list goes on.
There are too many consequences to count.
Together, we are ending the shame.
Together, we are breaking our silence.
Walk with me.
With me. With me.
As we walk together
to end child abuse and
neglect.
neglect.
And now we hope that you will join us this fall for the first ever Walk Together to End Child Abuse and Neglect. Learn more about how to join us at the link in the chat. The theme for this evening is Authentic Voices. We're here to celebrate the journey child abuse and neglect survivors embark on to heal from their experiences, to find their authentic voices, and then to use those voices to call for an end to child abuse and neglect. In this next segment, we want to share with you 3 incredible advocates and changemakers in the field of child abuse and neglect. Take a look.
Hi, my name is Grace French, and I'm a survivor of the now defamed Olympic doctor. I grew up a dancer and saw him often for dance injuries ranging from sprained wrists from rough playground play to hip and back pain from the demands of ballet. From 12 to 18, I was abused at every visit. He took advantage of my desire as a pre-professional athlete to get back to the stage. There were multiple institutions that failed to protect me and over 500 others. The first known report of his abuse came in 1997 when I was just 2 years old. As more and more information came to light about the complete picture of his decades of abuse, the more angry I became. That anger turned to pain, which then turned to the need to make change so that no one else would have to feel that pain. In the summer of 2018, I formed a nonprofit organization called the Army of Survivors that is dedicated to bringing awareness, transparency, and accountability to sexual violence against athletes at all levels, and to keep the momentum of my sister survivors' stories going. With about 7% of student athletes as victims of sexual assault through their participation in sport, with elite athletes having higher rates of sexual assault than lower-level athletes, there are at least 3.75 million survivors in the United States alone. These athletes need a voice. Our organization works in education, advocacy, and resources to change the culture in sport so that perpetrators and enablers are held accountable, there's transparency in reporting, and we create an environment in which athletes do not fear retaliation in reporting abuse. We advocate for change in culture to protect survivors. I'm so thankful to be honored by the National Foundation to End Child Abuse and Neglect. Together, we are louder than silence. Together, we can change the world.
I'm Daniela Ligero. It's such an honor to be with you here today, joining so many others in using our authentic voice. The author and survivor, Christine McDonald, once said, "There is solace in breaking our silence, a strength of spirit when sharing our truth. And it all starts with the choice to live on the other side of victim." For me, that choice came at the age of 15. I was on vacation with my parents and I didn't feel so well, so I stayed alone at the hotel while they went out. And I saw a movie made for TV about a young girl who was sexually abused and how it affected her. And that movie changed my life. You see, I too was sexually abused for several years, starting at the age of 6 by someone close to my family. And like most kids who are abused, I was terrified and ashamed, and I felt alone for a very long time. But seeing that movie made me feel, for the very first time, like I was not alone. And it helped me understand what I had gone through. And that changed everything. That night, I had the courage to tell my parents what had happened to me, and it started a chain of events that has transformed my life. I've spent the last 30 years on an amazing, sometimes tough, personal healing journey. Today, I'm the CEO of Together for Girls, a global partnership active in over 24 countries around the world that uses data and advocacy to drive action on ending violence against children, with special attention to sexual violence against girls and also boys. I believe that ending sexual violence and abuse against children is possible. But this change will only come if we use the data and evidence we finally have, and if we work together to implement these solutions and make some noise. You see, I believe the time for a powerful movement of survivors and allies has come. Together we are powerful. Together we are tireless in a most basic pursuit that every child has the right to grow up free from the threat of sexual violence or any other form of violence or abuse. Together we must call on bold and transformative action from leaders to make our homes, our communities, sport, places of worship, schools, and the online world safer for children. We must demand prevention, healing, and justice. Above all, we must use our authentic voice. We must be brave so that children can be safe. Thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for all that you are still going to do. And thank you for using your authentic voice.
When I started the Urban Health Media Project 4 years ago, I was hardly naive about the kind of trauma that somebody could experience in the home. Two of our students, one African American and one Hispanic, both had generational domestic violence in their families. One had grown up watching, remembers being 5 years old and seeing her mother get beat up badly by her stepfather. They did projects on domestic violence that brought all that back to me and got me interested in the subject all over again. They spoke on Capitol Hill. They got standing ovations at a conference on Capitol Hill co-sponsored by the Harvard School of Public Health. It was so exciting for them to have a voice. I love being able to give young people who are typically of color, often coming from lower income households, a voice, because the journalism, it's still such an exciting field to me. It's stressful, but it's an exciting field where you can make a difference. So for young people to be able to give voice to what they've been through, young people who don't want what happens in the house to stay in the house, they want change at the federal and state level. They want legislators to know what's going on and whether it's structural racism or something else that has caused the problems in their community. They want answers and they want acknowledgement of what they've been through. And the more people who will tell their own stories, the more powerful the journalism will be, and hopefully we'll see some societal change.
We'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to Grace French, Dr. Daniela Leggero, and Jane O'Donnell. Their stories, their words, their thoughts, and for creating the change needed in order to protect future generations of children from child abuse and neglect. In this next segment, we'd like to share with you a personal story from the author of Broken to Beautifully Whole, Kathy Studer. Kathy found her authentic voice through writing about how to feel whole again after the devastating impact child abuse can have.
I'm Kathy Studer, and it is an honor to be here tonight and stand with EndCAN and use my authentic voice. Have you ever saved anything for over 40 years? I have. This piece of paper is a one-page journal that I wrote shortly after I turned 13. I filled it up on one side, I flipped it over, I filled it up on the back, and then I wrote in the corner, a part of me that I'll never forget. And that part of me that I'll never forget is that I was sexually abused as a child by my stepfather from age 6 to age 12. When I wrote this, it was a small release of the anger and the resentment that I had towards my stepfather and the anger that I had towards children being abused all over the world. I did not believe it could be stopped. I had the tiny idea of writing a book. However, at that time, I carried a tremendous amount of shame, humiliation, low self-worth. and incredibly low self-esteem. Because of those feelings, I folded it up and I put it away. Yet I saved it. Unbeknownst to me, I saved it for a purpose, and that purpose is now. Two circumstances called me on a path for a purpose that I did not see coming to write my book, Broken to Beautifully Whole. In my book, I share how it is possible to pull our pieces back together, move through the trauma, and heal our pain, along with raising awareness to the very uncomfortable statistics and create a call to action for every single person to do something to defeat the statistics. 40 years ago, I did not believe it could be stopped. Today, I stand before you as a warrior, knowing that we can defeat the statistics. Children deserve reduced vulnerabilities. By teaching our children consent and boundaries, we empower them. Within these uncomfortable conversations and breaking the silence, we can create change. And tonight, we are here for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for using your story to empower others to heal from childhood trauma. Kathy is also an extraordinary volunteer for EndCAN as she helped plan this evening's program and supports their work through volunteering in a variety of other ways. Find more information about how you can volunteer for EndCAN in the chat. Now, in this next segment, we're delighted to share with you a stunning musical performance by Meredith Garofalo, a broadcast meteorologist, survivor, and singer. Meredith is accompanied by members of the Colorado Symphony Orchestra.
Sense of wonder. You get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. And loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than just a passing glance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or
Wow. Thank you to Meredith and the members of the Colorado Symphony Orchestra for that moving performance tonight. All of EndCAN's work is made possible by the generous donations of supporters just like you. If you're able and feel compelled to do so, please join us with a donation tonight. And now we'll hear from another monthly donor, Lee Kalichi, about why she chooses to support EndCAN.
Good evening. I am Lee Kalichi, and it's my privilege tonight to share with you why I am part of the EndCAN community and a monthly donor. When a child is abused, it impacts not only the child, but all who know their story. Any child can be abused, regardless of their gender, race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. EndCAN's goal of ending child abuse through research, training, advocacy, and programs that support survivors tackles the issue on all fronts. Currently, I'm not in a position to give a large annual gift, but I can give a monthly donation that fits my budget that EndCAN can count on each month to continue their work. I am proud to support EndCAN and be an ally to survivors of child abuse. If you are able to make a monthly donation, I hope that you will join me.
And once again, if you'd like to join Lee as a donor to EndCAN, you can easily do so by texting the number below or visiting endcan.org/donate. The impact of child abuse and neglect can last much longer after a person's childhood is over, and supporting survivors and embracing their stories is key to making progress on this issue. The Ladies Professional Golf Association is home to a survivor who recently came forward with her story of child abuse, how it impacted her later in life, and how she began to heal from the experience. The LPGA amplified her story by creating the video you'll see in the next segment. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the story of tonight's first honoree, Madeline Sagstrom.
I remember sitting in a hotel room, and I couldn't stop crying. I was so focused on preparing for the upcoming season. But I felt like I couldn't keep the secret inside of me anymore. I needed to tell someone what I've kept to myself for 16 years.
For Madeline Sagstrom, revealing her secret meant confronting her past and reliving the pain she suffered on the most traumatizing day of her life.
It's one of those things I was just trying to shovel under the rug and just no, that probably didn't happen.
Sagstrom grew up in Enköping, Sweden, a countryside city an hour from Stockholm. One day as a young girl, she visited a family friend's house. She was just 7 years old.
I was by myself when I was going over to see my friend, a man that I was really close to. And it was one of those things to just come in, hang out. Nothing weird, nothing wrong, and he ended up sexually abusing me. I went home and I acted like nothing ever happened for 16 years. I think the biggest reason why I didn't tell anybody, I think mostly shame. I should have known better.
Scarred by her past, Sagstrom used golf to move forward. She became a Swedish junior champion, an NCAA All-American, and a member of the Symetra Tour in 2016.
I got really, really absorbed in golf, so I think that was kind of my savior in a sense. I could really immerse myself in this world where when I played well, I was okay. And I really did not like who I was. I couldn't even put body lotion on my legs because I hated my body so much due to what somebody else did to me.
In 2016, Sagstrom's coach, former European Ryder Cup player Robert Carlson, noticed that she struggled to control her emotions on the golf course.
The thing that I know as a golfer and as any human being, when we're on the first tee, yes, we are the golfer, but you can't leave the person behind.
He was really pushing me on, okay, dig deeper, and why do you think you react to this way on the golf course? And I had this thing come up in my mind. I was like, was like, I don't think that's important. Let's just put that on the side. But it kept coming up, and I was like, maybe there is something there. Maybe I should tell him. So one day I did tell him, I was like, I have this thing from when I was a child. Don't think it matters very much, but maybe. So I told him, and he looked at me, and I literally just bursted into tears. When I was sat there, I'm like, this was important. This was a massive step.
It was kind of, that was what it was. I could see it was a relief for her to talk about it. I mean, it was a strong emotional thing for me, yes, she trusted me.
I think that he just felt that pain for me. He understood the pain that I've been carrying for so many years. I felt like nothing I will ever say from now on is gonna matter. Like, I've said the worst thing I can say, and I just felt like so free.
In her rookie season on the Symetra Tour, Sagström set a record for single-season earnings and secured her LPGA Tour card.
It's part of the thing that people don't see about my career. I had a really good 2016 because I wasn't hiding anymore. Being able to share my story with Robert and tell my secret just opened up all the doors for me. I was on cloud 9, I was flying, nothing could stop me at that point.
She proved to herself that I got nothing to fear, feel ashamed of, or that I need to hide. And it definitely took her on a different path in life, where she's more stable in herself and more accepting of herself.
I think the Madeline that went into the hotel room was scared. She didn't really know who she was. But when she left, she was stronger than she'd ever been. And that has been a big step for me. None of us are alone. To talk with someone about sexual abuse, call the National Sexual Assault Hotline.
Sharing your story requires a tremendous amount of courage and is an act that very much deserves recognition. That's why we created the Louder Than Silence Award. This award recognizes an individual whose voice uplifts others in order to make the world a better place for those impacted by child abuse and neglect. On behalf of EndCAN, I am so proud to present this year's Louder Than Silence Award to Madeline Sagström. Congratulations, Madeline.
Hi, my name is Madeline Sagström. First of all, I just want to thank EndCAN for receiving this award. It means a lot to me since it's extremely close to my heart and just showing me that I'm on the right path in trying to encourage people to tell their stories. We're all in this together, and I am just honored and just so overwhelmed with the response I've received since going out with the story, my story, through the LPGA channels, and it's been overwhelmingly awesome and at the same time very sad, because I have heard from so many people that this is the first time they're telling somebody their story. It's been an honor for me to be that person for somebody to decide to tell, and I also know for a fact that so many people have decided now to reach out to close ones and just tell them what they have experienced. So we're all in this together. I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you for everything you guys do, and I am just so honored.
Madeline, thank you so much for sharing your story, and congratulations on receiving this year's Louder Than Silence Award. The movement to end child abuse and neglect is made stronger by the collaboration and diligence of our national partners. Here to present EndCAN's National Partner Award is board member Reggie Vika.
As a board member of EndCAN, it is my distinct pleasure to present the inaugural 2021 EndCAN National Partner Award to the American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children, also known as APSAC. We created this award to honor an organization that has shown a willingness to work together to create better outcomes for all those impacted by child abuse and neglect. And we cannot think of a more deserving organization to receive this year's award. Founded in 1986, APSAC works tirelessly to meet the needs of professionals from the many disciplines that serve maltreated children and their families. Like EndCAN, their goal, first and foremost, is to prevent child maltreatment. Just one example of their incredible ongoing commitment is the annual APSAC Colloquium, now in its 28th year, which brings high-quality learning opportunities to child maltreatment researchers and practitioners, including professionals in mental health, social work, medicine and nursing, law, education, law enforcement, prevention, research, advocacy, child protective services, and other allied fields. Tonight, it is my privilege to recognize APSAC for their commitment to the field of child abuse and neglect, as demonstrated by their collaboration and inclusivity, and to present them with the 2021 National Partner Award.
Thank you, Reggie, for the kind words about an organization that is near and dear to my heart. APSAC is delighted and honored to be recognized by the mighty staff, board, and founders of EndCAN. In 2018, at the New Orleans APSAC Colloquium, we recognized EndCAN for the amazing work that you are doing in changing the perception around child abuse and neglect, addressing child abuse and neglect as a public health problem, and increasing research and training and prevention. We were also quite impressed and recognized EndCAN for the public awareness campaign that you have raised to assist parents, professionals, and communities to collectively address child abuse and neglect. Since that time, I had reached out to Lori Poland and Dr. Krugman and your founders, and we have worked together in partnership to see what can we do stronger as partners to increase the voices. The American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children is the largest association of professionals trying to prevent and solve child abuse across the globe. In this last most unprecedented year, APSAC membership grew by over 20% and has already exceeded our board's membership goals for 2021. During the pandemic, APSAC's very small staff and hardworking board pivoted to provide more training opportunities than ever before, and we were able to reach and train more child abuse professionals in the last year than in the 10 years before that combined. Now, we are very honored in APSAC to stand on the shoulders of a very long list of board and past presidents who work so hard to bring their knowledge, their expertise, their experience, and their lessons learned to the field. And I currently serve as the president of APSAC, and I am so honored to stand before you today in this dinner, no dinner, in order to receive this award on behalf of our hardworking board, on behalf of our very hardworking staff and team, and all the professionals that we serve at APSAC. We are also extremely honored this year to be able to increase our member benefits. So members now get access to incredible work, and we have done this with partnership, starting with partnerships with IHS, and now in our incredible partnership with the New York Foundling, we've been able to bring together a professional online course, a webinar series, and a number of Zoom chats, and increased our virtual training. We hope that all of you may join us after this event at our virtual training this coming July 12th to the 15th, and then next year live in New Orleans in 2022. So please check out APSAC and let us know what we can do to help you in service as professionals. And most importantly, thank you, EndCAN, for all that you do. And I believe that in partnership with the way EndCAN is bringing partners and the way we're partnering together with Lori Poland and Dr. Krugman, that together we can unite voices and support survivors and end child abuse and neglect. So thank you.
First of all, thanks to Reggie, but congratulations to Stacy and APSAC, and thank you for all the wonderful work that you do. The third and final award we'll be presenting tonight is the inaugural Richard D. Krugman Award. This award recognizes an individual who's made a lifelong commitment to protecting children and promoting a future free of child abuse and neglect. The namesake of the award, Dr. Richard Krugman, is here to tell you more about the recipient. Dick?
Thank you, Ed. I'm sorry. It's really very special to be able to introduce the inaugural recipient of EndCAN's Richard D. Krugman Award. It's also a little awkward because the award's in my name. And as you can see, I'm quite alive. I grew up thinking you needed to have shuffled off the mortal coil before you got something named for you, but it turns out that's not true. The EndCAN's staff perpetrated this on me several months ago, and in truth, I'm okay with it. I'm particularly okay with it because having Dr. Nancy Gary as the first recipient of this award is simply fabulous. She is an extraordinary woman. She grew up in Westchester, New York, went to Smith College, rooming next to Gloria Steinem. She married her late husband, Sam, in 1953, and they moved to Denver, where he began a very successful career in oil and gas. Sam and Nancy started the Piton Foundation in 1976, which has supported hundreds and hundreds of programs over the past 45 years in our community. Nancy has been laser focused on helping children for decades. I first met her in the spring of 1976, having no clue who she was or what the foundation was that she had started, when she applied to the Child Health Associate Physician Assistant Program. I was the director of admissions for that program and interviewed her and was very impressed. Following her 3 years in the program, her first job was with the Child Protection Team at Colorado General Hospital and the Kemp Center, which I was to become director of, where she evaluated abused children with my first fellow, Dr. Donna Rosenberg. After a few years, Nancy was so frustrated with the reality that very few abused children and their families were getting any treatment, mental health treatment at all, that she left us for the University of Denver, where she attained her psychology doctorate. And for the past 35 years, she's been treating abused children in her private practice, most of them pro bono. The other point I need to make is that it was Nancy who was there for me personally the 2 times in my professional life that I really needed help. The first time was November 1982. I had been appointed director of the National Center for Prevention and Treatment of Child Abuse and Neglect by its founder, C. Henry Kemp. No search process. A year later, we were within 6 weeks of closing our doors for lack of funds, which was incredibly awkward because I had just recruited a child psychiatrist named David Jones from England to start with us on January 1st of 1983. Nancy, via Piton, gave us a $40,000 grant and a $30,000 loan, which was enough to keep the doors open. Parenthetically, David Jones was the child psychiatrist who evaluated, treated, and did the video deposition of 3-year-old Lori Poland that led to the conviction of her kidnapper, abuser, and attempted murderer in September of 1983. The second time Nancy stepped in was in 2016. I had stepped down as dean of the University of Colorado School of Medicine after 25 years, and with Lori wanted to explore whether there was a need for a national foundation focused on ending child abuse and neglect. Lori was in a successful private practice, but once Nancy had met her and talked with us, she gave us a $90,000 grant that allowed us to test the feasibility of what is now EndCAN. So to the extent that I'm honored to have my name on the award, it's only because Nancy Gary was there at 2 critical early points in my career in child abuse. Without her, I would have been the second and last director of the Kemp Center. And without her, I would have been just another retired dean, probably consulting or coaching other deans somewhere around the country. Thank you, Dr. Nancy Gary. I'm thrilled that you are the first recipient of the EndCAN Richard D. Krugman Award. Congratulations.
I have received other awards, but none so meaningful to me as this one. Dick Krugman gave me my first job and got me started. When I started to think of what I wanted to say about Dick, or to Dick, I couldn't remember when we first met, so I called Dick because he never forgets a date. And the message I got back was, Nancy, our first meeting was in my bathroom office at Colorado General in the spring of 1976, our USA bicentennial year. I was director of admissions of the Child Health Associate Program, and you were an applicant. He did accept me into the program, and we've been friends ever since. I could always call him for a magic email, which is a text or a note from Dick to whatever doctor I needed to see but couldn't get an appointment with for the next 6 months. And the next day, I got a call from that doctor and was able to see him right away, me, my family, or my friends. It always worked. I remember when I was a student and we would be taking a test, Dick would wander into the classroom of a pretty bunch of uptight students and would say, the answers to the test are CCC, ABA. And that relaxed us. I completed the program and I was ready to work at the Kemp Center, and I asked Dick if I would be paid. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a quarter, 2 dimes, and a nickel, gave them to me and said, of course you will be paid. Dick was my role model, my mentor, my teacher, and my friend. And he is why I am the person I am today. He is funny, positive, knowledgeable, energetic, and very focused on his mission, which has always been to end child abuse. From the very beginning, Dick has embraced Henry Kemp's goal to end child abuse, and now we need to help him achieve this goal. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Dr. Gary. As Lori, Dick, their partners and supporters have demonstrated tonight, EndCAN's work is only just beginning. The journey ahead to end child abuse through research, prevention, education, and advocacy will only be made possible by donors just like you. If you haven't yet tonight, please consider joining EndCAN's mission with a donation. Now, here to explain the powerful impact your donations have is EndCAN board member Brady Priest.
Thank you, Ed. And a special thank you to all of our guests for attending our second annual No Dinner Dinner. As I listened tonight to all those who shared their stories and talents, it reminded me once again how powerful just one voice can be. I also want to recognize and appreciate how much courage it takes for each of you to speak up and tell your stories. So to tonight's speakers and honorees, I want you to know that you are why we at EndCAN do what we do each and every day. Thank you for lending your voice to our mission. And to our generous sponsors, we can't thank you enough for making this night and the coming year's activities and events possible through your donations. As most of you know, EndCAN's primary goal is to launch and sustain a nationwide movement to end child abuse and neglect. We're doing this via our support of 4 key focus areas. 1, through research, we identify and act on opportunities based on actual data and needs. 2, through education and training of both professionals and the general public. 3, through identifying innovative child abuse prevention methods, we believe we can begin to move from a response-driven system to one of prevention. And 4, through grassroots advocacy, we're raising an army of informed voices to effect important change in our country. For decades, the research dollars committed to addressing child abuse and neglect have paled in comparison to other health conditions children face. EndCAN is committed to supporting outcomes research to help us better understand the long-term impacts of maltreatment on the health of those impacted by child abuse and neglect. We drive investment in key research areas through strategic partnerships with health agencies, through research grants for young investigators, and via competition aimed at identifying innovative ways to disrupt the research field. Over the last 2 years, in partnership with the Ray E. Helfer Society, EndCAN has awarded a total of $178,000 in research grants to child abuse pediatric fellows at the following institutions: Texas Children's Hospital, Baylor College of Medicine, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania, the Hospital for Sick Kids, the University of Toronto, and Seattle Children's Hospital and the University of Washington. Our overall goal for tonight is to raise $75,000, which in part will allow EndCAN to expand our research funding and to provide support for child abuse pediatrician faculty to join academic departments following their fellowships. If you can, please join me in supporting EndCAN by making a gift through our website at www.endcan.org or by texting the word HERO to 720-738-5299 on your mobile device. Again, you can make your gift via our website at www.endcan.org or by texting the word HERO to 720-738-5299 on your mobile device. Thank you so much for attending tonight's event, and please know we greatly value your support, and together we look forward to continuing our mission to ending child abuse and neglect in our lifetimes. Thank you.
Brady, thank you so much. Our next and final segment is an outstanding performance by a man with a voice so powerful and so moving, you won't be surprised to learn he was a top finalist on American Idol. He has dedicated this song to survivors of child abuse and neglect everywhere. Please enjoy our final performance of the evening by the talented and incredible Jacob Lusk.
Hey everybody, my name is Jacob Lusk, and I'm honored to be here with you tonight. I want to dedicate this song to every person that's ever endured child abuse or neglect. Know that you are never alone, and that you have everything inside of you to survive. This is for you tonight. There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer. If you search within yourself, the emptiness you felt will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and you can be strong, and you'll finally see the truth, that a hero lies in you. You are a hero, yeah. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself, and the emptiness you felt will disappear. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and you can be strong, and you'll finally see the truth, that a hero lies in you. Lord knows you finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. You are a hero. You're a hero. You are, you are, you are, you are. Thank you for being a hero. Thank you for being my hero. You are a hero rising.
Jacob Lusk, thank you. What a beautiful performance to close this evening out. To all our heroes watching tonight's program, thank you for joining us to celebrate the authentic voices of survivors on their journey of healing from child abuse and neglect. Stay in touch with EndCAN by following them on social media. Thank you again for your support in protecting children and bringing an end to child abuse and neglect. We hope you have a wonderful evening. Good night.